Good morning, guys. Happy Thursday. Hope everyone is well. It is the 14th of May, midway through May already, which is absolutely crazy. But yeah, let's get straight into this daily market outlook for today. As always, understand that the content on this YouTube inside my Discord is for educational and informational purposes only. I'm not a financial advisor, and nothing shared in my videos or Discord should be considered financial investment or trading advice. Trading and investing involves risk, and you should always conduct your own research before making any financial decisions. Any past performances discussed does not guarantee future results. You are responsible for your own financial decisions. So, with that being said, let's jump into the charts and see what is going on. Before we obviously do that, let's just have a look at the news calendar. Of course, going into today, we have core retail sales at basically half two my time, European time. So half two, we have to keep an eye on that, and then we also have had Great British Pound news this morning at 8 a.m. So half two is what we've got to keep an eye on, and then obviously that'll be it for the week. Going into the charts today, so let's just start off on the 4 hour. Hopefully, you guys can hear me nice and clear. I am outside and the pool is on at the moment, so I do apologize if it's not as clear, but it should be okay. But looking at where we're currently at, pretty much the same as yesterday. Pretty much the same. We have the internal bullish, whilst we're in this daily supply and this 4 hour supply area here. So, nothing's really changed that much. As you guys know with myself, as I always explain, if we're in a daily range or even a 4 hour range and we're inside that 4 hour supply or daily supply, one thing I want you guys to always remember is that 4 hour supply is not in control until we get an internal break of structure. And you can utilize that internal break of structure from a 1 hour, which is what I like, or 15 minute. But mainly the 1 hour. So if the internal is obviously bullish, then again, I am focusing mainly on that internal structure and playing the demand of them areas than the supply until, of course, we get a change of trend. Once we get a change of trend on this internal, now not only is the 4 hour bearish, now the internal structure, which could be a 1 hour, 15 minute, is also now bearish. And that's where you can then look to, target a supply area and short this to target the daily or the 4 hour lower low. So hopefully, that makes sense to you guys. I know it's something that I just cover all the time, but I just want to keep reminding you guys of that very, very um, key attribute inside of the way that I trade. So if you look mainly from, well, we can look at the four and you can see that we obviously have, higher high, higher low, higher high here. And we obviously have this where this little imbalance was, that was our 4 hour demand. But again, you guys will know from yesterday, I refined that 4 hour demand area to a 1 hour. So the 1 hour looks a lot more um easier on the eye, should I say. And as you can see, this is my 1 hour demand area, which is where market came back into. We consolidated, and then this morning, during London, we obviously had this engulfing candle here. Now, this engulfing candle indicated to me personally that, I want to be looking for longs from this 1 hour demand area from a US dollar perspective. And as you can see, we are obviously reactive from there. Now, I do want to see this high broke, which will give me a lot more confidence. And obviously, you can see we are slowing down at this moment in time. But ideally, I just want to see if market can, break above these highs and just carry that trend on. Basically, just carry that trend on. So at this moment in time, everything is working out perfectly. Of course, same as always. If we, for instance, break this low and or mainly these lows, but if we break this low strongly, then we can obviously then basically look to potentially target the shorts because we're reacting out of that 4 hour supply. 4 hour and daily is bearish, for instance, meaning the supply areas. Now the internal structure would be bearish as well. So hopefully that makes sense. Now going into Euro USD. So again, Euro USD, not much has changed. If you look at the timings, we've been in this demand area since Wednesday, not really giving much volume away from this area. We haven't come and mitigated this supply area as well. So, not a lot has happened this week, to be truthful. Well, not this week, should I say? Not much has happened since Wednesday. So for me, if we look at the dollar again, if we go bearish, then we expect obviously this to carry on bullish long term. But understand that internal structure is obviously bearish. Now, for me, um, personally, I'm only interested in shorting from here long term, like from a 4 hour perspective, unless, and if we don't reach that, unless we get a strong reaction away from here right now, fresh supply area, and then look to counter that. Um, but yeah, obviously at this moment in time, your USD isn't my cleanest. Even if I go to the 1 hour, you can see that yes, market has come into like this little trap area here, as I call it, and you can utilize that as a supply area. But for me, with this imbalance above and this supply area, I was favoring, more shorts from this area at this moment in time. So for me personally, I'm not interested in your USD until we break this low. And obviously that means the dollar would be going bullish even more. Or if the dollar does go, if the dollar does basically carry on bullish from here, and then we get a clean move down from these areas, then I will be looking for the shorts. The only really good thing is that. So I think the main thing that we want to focus on from a positive outlook in regards to your USD is we've obviously taken out these highs and then we've had this engulfing candle here. So for me, if you're looking at this and it does carry on shorting, then yeah, we can obviously look for potential entries. But at this moment in time, I want to see more movement down. GBP USD, I'm actively in GBP USD. I'm hoping obviously it carries on shorts, but at this moment in time, it is messing around, if I'm being honest. If we just go to the 4 hour, you can see where and why I'm looking at shorts. Now, of course, we're inside this 4 hour demand area. And obviously, if we're going to carry on bullish, then I expect market to carry on bullish from here. Now, one thing I noticed is obviously we broke obviously this low here. We broke this low here. If you look, we have lower low, lower high, lower low. So for me, we have a fresh supply area at this moment in time here. And all I was waiting for is obviously a reaction from this supply area because as I just mentioned to you guys, internal structure is still my priority until we, of course, break that internal structure because it has been melting. Once we do that, that's when the internal 1 hour structure is in alignment with the higher time frame. So 4 hour, you can see the supply dropping down to the one. What happened this morning was you can see during Asian we reached that supply area. Let me just zoom in so you guys can see it clearer. We reached that supply area and then market give us this engulfing candle. Now this engulfing candle allowed me to mark out obviously this area. This was entry number one, which was a 1 hour supply. You can obviously go down to the lower time frames, which I will in a minute. And then as you can see, we obviously come into that supply, melted away, pardon me, and then we had this next supply area. It's a bit of a bigger one. This is obviously the 1 hour time frame. And that was my next supply area. Now, of course, if we drop down to the 30 or the 15 minute, you can refine that, like I said, to this area here. You can refine that to this area here. If we drop to the 15, you can obviously start to refine them to even more of a precise entry, if that makes sense. But of course, what we want to focus on predominantly is, what the market is doing right now. So, at this moment, you can see that market has obviously melted off. We come into a 30 minute, so let's just change this from here so we don't get confused. This is a 30 minute and 15 minute supply. Obviously, that is a 15 minute supply as well. And as you can see at this moment in time, market obviously came into there. We started to get a really good reaction from there as well. The second entry, which would be more of a 30 minute supply. Let me just show you. 30 minute candle. Of course, some people, will be waiting for this 15 minute here, which is fine. And then we get some good reaction, but then this obviously volume slowed down a lot, as you can see, which, can be a little bit worrying. So for me personally, at this moment in time, I'm just wanting to see the downwards movement carry on from here, and the shorts still be, in control. Of course, that relies on what the dollar is doing. And if the dollar starts obviously melting off, then, we can expect major pairs to do the opposite. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. So NZUSD, let's have a look at what she's doing. So NZUSD is or should I say was ugly as shit, as I said to you guys anyway. Something that I just didn't enjoy even looking at here, just being personal. Obviously, you can mark it out, but just from a perspective of looking at the charts, it has been consolidating, extremely consolidating. We obviously finally got this breakaway. And now if you look at the 1 hour, you can see it a little bit more clearer. We come into the supply, and then we obviously melted away from there. Now, for me personally, we obviously have, or you can refine it to that, sorry, as a 1 hour supply if the dollar does decide to carry on bearish. And of course, this area of supply, which market is currently in at this moment in time. But just being real with you guys, if you look at the state of where it's at right now, I'm not interested until we see some sort of significant break. So let's say a break below, for instance, then I'd be looking at shorting potentially, and then vice versa. But yeah, NZUSD for me at the moment in time this morning, GBP USD was a better looking one. Even Euro USD was a better looking one than G because we had a liquidity sweep of the highs and then that engulfing candle. NZUSD is pretty much the same. You can see that it's consolidating at this moment in time, which it is. I have a little bit more bullishness. Of course, that is the opposite to NZUSD, which is obviously annoying, but you can see that market reacted perfectly from this forward demand area. We broke above this supply area now after getting a reaction. And yeah, man, like just looking at this scenario at this moment in time, there's not much on the 4 hour. This demand area got mitigated by this, and there's not really a clear one there. So if I drop down to the 1, you can pretty much see that we had this demand area, which is where market still is at this moment in time. So of course, if US dollar carries on bearish, then we can expect, more move away from here. If, for instance, the dollar carries on bullish from this demand area, then what we can expect is potential shorts from this 1 hour supply area. And this 1 hour supply area is clean, because we've mitigated, the highs of the Asian, had this engulfing candle. So ideally, if this was given, it would be a clean setup. But again, it's just got to make sure that it aligns with what the dollar wants to do. Now, USD CAD, I am still in, and I'm still at break even. It has been messing around a lot, as you can tell. But I'm still in at this moment in time. I haven't been out of break even at this moment. Let's see what happens. So, looking at the 4. Let me just move this. Looking at the 4 hour, what is going on? So you can see the internal structure is extremely bullish in that internal structure. We have reached this 4 hour supply area, which is obviously why market has slowed down. But we are again bullish inside of this internal structure, as I just said. Now going into the 1 hour, you can see that market has reached this 1 hour demand area. We obviously had a reaction. We come back into this next 1 hour demand area, had a beautiful reaction again, and then we had this lower time frame, 15-minute for me here, which you can see then reacted from perfectly. Now, of course, at this moment in time, I just want to see this carry on. Where we're currently at is the next demand area. What it's done in Asian is you can see that market has came in at London, take out these lows, took out the liquidity. Asian lows here. And then 1 second. And then from there, we had obviously this big bullish engulfing candle. And then that left us with this 1 hour demand candle that we can look to trade from. Again, where its market's at is the body of it. So you can obviously refine that as well. And if you go to lower time frames, you'll be able to see that there's a 30-minute demand candle. And then obviously a 15-minute demand candle if you wanted to refine it to more of a shorter, smaller demand zone. So, for me personally, I'm hoping that, of course, this carries on bullish from where the market is currently at. But let's see. Hopefully the dollar is nice to us today, or me. But yeah, let's go into the last pair, which is USD CHF. Just missed my forward demand area, which is annoying, of course, but it is what it is. But yeah, as you can see, same as USD CAD, market structure internally is, of course, bullish. So I'm expecting market to just carry on bullish, unless, of course, we get a break of this low, and then we can go, okay, forward supply, change of trend, we can then look to target the shorts from a new supply area. But at this moment in time, we are bullish. As I said, I did want this demand area to obviously be mitigated. We didn't quite get that, unfortunately. If we jump down to the 1 hour, can we see anything more? Anything else? No, not really. Of course, we have this 1 hour demand inside this 4 hour. And yeah, man, I can't really see much to be fair to you guys. Of course, during Asian or during London, should I say, we've obviously come and take these lows, and then we've had this bullish reaction. If the dollar was to carry on bullish, I would expect obviously USD Swiss franc to carry on as well. But yeah, at this moment in time, I'm going to set my hands with USD CHF and see what happens. Going into the rest of today, let's see. And then USD Japanese yen is just doing USD Japanese yen things, where it's just ugly, and something I'm not interested in at this moment in time. So that is your daily market outlook for today, guys. I hope you got some value from this call. I appreciate you guys tuning in as always. Show some love on the video, drop a like, drop a comment, and make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, of course. Other than that, take care and God bless.